Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Nicola Donnelly, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Warrant Officer, Class 1, Virginia Morris. This evening, we warmly welcome the Royal Australian Naval College, HMAS Creswell, New Entry Officers, Streeter Division. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial and students on behalf of St Margaret's Berwick Grammar School from Berwick, Victoria. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem.
Australians, oh let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is got by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Students, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament. Flowers of the forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Herbert Glanville Cornish. Herbert Cornish was born on the 18th of June 1894 in Clare, South Australia. Affectionately known as Glan, he was one of 10 children born to Albert Cornish, a gardener, and his wife Ada. Glan was educated locally and was working as a farmer at the outbreak of the First World War in 1914. Glan Cornish enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 14th of April 1916. He was assigned to the 3rd Reinforcements of the 48th Battalion with the rank of private and started a short period of training. In May, he married his sweetheart, Ivy Helena Prime, in the town of Balmans before returning to Adelaide to embark. He left Australia on board the troop ship Siang B in July 1916, never to see his homeland again. Private Cornish arrived in Plymouth, England on the 9th of September. There he continued training before embarking for the Western Front in December. He joined the rest of his unit in the front lines in early 1917, where they suffered through a bitterly cold winter in the trenches. Soon after the enemy began their strategic withdrawal to the fortified Hindenburg Line, Allied units eagerly followed the enemy's retreat, believing the war was perhaps finally drawing to a close. It was not long, however, until their withdrawal halted at the enemy's new front line near the French village of Bullecourt. Here the Allies planned to mount an attack to break through German lines and capture the village. Cornish's 48th Battalion attacked on the morning of the 11th of April 1917, under cover from tanks rather than artillery. As they jumped over the parapet, the tanks quickly proved ineffective and the attacking infantry were left exposed to murderous enemy fire. One of Cornish's comrades described the attack, writing in a letter home, "I tell you it was hell let loose on that day. Our guns opened fire at 4 a.m. and the air seemed to be on fire with shells screeching over us. Of course Fritz took a tumble and we were going to attack and open fire in return, and it was awful. When we hopped out, the machine guns and rifles tore into us. Men were dropping all round, and when the officers saw the state of things, they ordered us to drop down, and what was left of us dropped into shell holes and kept low. My mate had a bullet right through his ribs, and another poor fellow who made an attempt to go back to the trenches was shot dead. Soon forced to retreat, Allied units suffered more than 3,000 casualties in one day. The battalion's commanding officer noted in the unit's war diary, "Had the tanks shown more pluck and initiative, I believe things would have been quite different. No words of mine can express the pride and admiration I feel for these brave men." Among the thousands of dead was Private Glan Cornish, who had been killed by shell fire during his unit's advance on Bullecourt. Cornish's final resting place was never found, and his wife chose to pay tribute to him in the Express and Telegraph newspaper. She added a short memorial notice in 1918 which read, "God holds the key of all unknown. Sometime we'll understand." Private Glan Cornish's name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, amongst almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photo is displayed by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Herbert Glanville Cornish, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Posiers or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over, but in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.